the special meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Village of Campton Hills for Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. Mr. Brown, would you mind calling the roll, please?
Sure. Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Kopeck? Present. Commissioner Lorario?
Present.
Commissioner Teat? Here. Chairman Frederick?
Here.
Commissioner Anderson? Here. And what day is it?
Birthday.
My birthday. All right,
Happy birthday.
that's it. And we, Village Administrator Rooney will be joining us shortly, and Secretary Brown, I'm here as well.
All right, very good. Motion, item number 3, motion, we do have a quorum, so a motion to approve the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission for April 9th, 2025.
So moved.
All right, a second by Mr. Kopeck. Discussion, concerns? Son of a gun. I don't think I had any. I don't think I had any. It's really nicely done.
Well, getting better, finally, after a year and a half.
All right, if, all my notes for the other thing are gone. Okay. Messed that up, oh well. Okay, if, hearing no other comments or edits, all those in favor to approve the minutes of April 9th, 2025 as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 4, public comment. Drew, are you here to make any public comment? Okay. Welcome. Item number 5, review of the draft comprehensive plan, all chapters. First of all, I would like to start and let everyone else know that when I opened this document, when it was sent to me, and I did a cursory look at it, I was very impressed, and I thought Mr. Brown did an outstanding job. So I know there's still more work to be done, but the initial impression, looking at it, and that product as an outline of a pretty finished product, looked really good. So that was my initial comment. So thank you. I know it's a lot of work,
Thanks.
a lot of work to put in there in those 3 weeks of time, so. Okay. There are a lot of pages in here. Thankfully, like the last 35 pages or so is all CMAP data,
Yeah.
things that we don't have to get. Really, we've reviewed the first 3 chapters, and we have the 3 chapters now in final format. We reviewed chapter 4, made that a separate land use chapter, and we discussed that, and then tonight we'd like to just review that and make sure the edits that we gave Mr. Brown are exactly what we wanted. Also, I'd like to invite you at your leisure to get up at any time and make yourself available to the refreshments that have been offered by Mr. Anderson, so thank you. But don't feel bad if you get up and walk over there and grab something while I'm talking. It's quite all right. I will not be offended. I had a minor list that I wrote down, and I just cannot find that right now. So I will open it up to the floor. First of all, does anybody have any, let's just start with chapter 4. So that would be, well, first of all, let me just start with chapter 1, 2, and 3, which we've kind of already done, but he actually put it into the final format. Were there any comments on chapters 1, 2, or 3 that you can remember, or had you highlighted, or? I know there was a few minor things that I might just have to share with you later. I wrote down, they were pretty minor. It was
Okay.
grammatical, not really grammatical,
Right.
but.
I would just say for the demographics section, I selected what I thought were kind of the top things to display in the text, and the rest is in the appendix. If there's anything from the CMAP documents that you want kind of pulled or redone or elaborated on in the demographics section, I can pull that out.
Yeah, my initial impression there was actually, I thought it was just a nice overview, and it wasn't too
Right.
much. It
Yeah,
wasn't too
okay.
much. And I did notice there was a ton in the appendix, which
Yeah.
I thought was good. I do have one comment, one came back to my mind. In the beginning, this would be page 12 overall, page page 10 and 11 and the actual document as I open it up. It's page 10 and 11 of the document. The list of acronyms, and maybe it's just a personal thing. I would think the list of acronyms would be towards the end as an appendix.
Yeah, I can move it there.
Yeah, that's where I would kind of prefer that to be. That's a great picture of the tractor, I like that, that goes with it, it was very, but I think the acronym should go, either a separate appendix or.
Okay.
Or attached to a glossary or something like that, all right? That was one comment I had. Normally I make notes in my, but I wrote them down on paper this time, and I forgot it.
So what,
Okay.
question in regards to that,
Yeah.
TDRs, were we gonna keep that in there for the development rights?
I can remove that. I just copied that quickly from the previous document. I kind of did the screenshot, cut and paste, and put it in here. So, I can catch that, I can remove that.
Page, actually, I think it's page, the Campton Hills Regional Road Network. I think that was the map that was inserted. Page 37 of the actual text, and electronically it's page 25, but the page 30, bottom page, printed page 37. There's the map of the regional road network.
Yeah.
And then when I just kind of look at it, if I don't know where Campton Hills are, I'm not sure. It's kind of like Campton Hills lost in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want like a red square box or a
Yeah, I
red
can do
circle
that.
or something like that to highlight where the context of the village is in relationship to all those roads.
Yeah, I did that for a different map on page 34. I put a little star in it.
Yeah, or a star or something, yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, also then on page 35, that map, it's just a blur where the village is. If we could have the village boundaries highlighted on that map?
Yeah.
Within the township.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of, just kind of accentuate the,
Yeah, because it encompasses more than Campton Township, and all you see there is Campton.
it's very faint to see
Yeah.
the actual village. The
Yeah.
color of the village is like a peach or whatever, but
Yeah.
that might not hurt to put a black outline or something,
Yeah.
a different color.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or can you, the whole thing is opaque, right? The whole page has been made
Right.
opaque. So I don't know if you can unopaque a section of it, or,
Would you want, if you check on page 125, it's the Appendix A. So CMAP has a map. Would that be good, or do you want something more detailed than that?
125. Electronically 125? No, it can't be. It's gotta be
Oh.
something else.
No, there's only 103.
Yeah. What page again?
It's page
Oh,
number
125,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, so it is 120, it's just, it's the very first page of Appendix A, and it has, yeah, I guess the context of that other map is showing where the
Yeah.
townships are, but not, I mean, I guess, at a minimum, I think you would at least put a star, you
Yeah,
know?
either way, or I can get maybe HR Green to help. The issue with the Kane County GIS is there's layers on there that I can't turn off.
Yeah,
And I can't make it
yeah.
the way I
unopaque it
want, and then
or-
I could add and kind of build it back up. I can put in Adobe Illustrator and do different things with it, but I can't get to like a clean base layer from what
Yeah.
I can do with the GIS.
So we'll
that I
just
have.
call it
Yeah,
HR.
so I can,
Yeah.
they might be able to do it.
And maybe they could just throw another layer on top, like a black outline of the village or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Maybe just
I
throw
might be
one
able
more
to do
layer,
that. That's a
like one
little
more
time
layer on top.
consuming, but
Yeah, I don't know.
particularly given our boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I could probably get HR Green to do it. I was just trying to avoid sending them too much
yeah.
Yeah.
and it, you know,
Okay. But I understand, I get it, I think it would give more context to the map, too.
Right.
It's just rather than
Yeah.
just all the townships, it would say, okay,
Right.
here's the village, and they're, hey,
Yeah.
they're pretty much in all the
Yeah.
townships, so.
yeah, I could do something like that too. I mean, there's different ways, but
Google Earth.
Google Earth, yeah, I mean, I was trying to avoid doing that, you know what I mean? Yeah, I can, well, yeah, I can zoom in.
Well, I think the context with respect to all the different townships, you know, is helpful. So I like that I like the way it's presented, I just want to see the village outlined, so.
Then HR Green could probably do
Can
that
help
in a
it,
couple
yeah.
of clicks. I can't,
Yeah,
I can't do
okay.
it.
Sure.
So,
All right, but what's that?
yeah,
down for an
I'll
action
contact
item,
them.
is it? All right, okay. I'm just scrolling through to try to trigger some of the things that I remember. Yeah, I, like, once again, just the data, the population, I thought that was very good, just a couple of
Mm-hmm.
elements. Then chapter 3, I think,
Yeah, community essence,
yep, that was changed, that was the change that we did.
so there's a number of places where it's on page, well, is it page, whatever it is, 46 of the document. First, this is the vision of Campton Hills.
Yeah,
This, A says community character.
I think it was meant to stay that way, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I thought we were supposed to, community essence.
Essence was meant to be for the paragraph that described it,
Yeah.
it was separate, it was separate.
Okay,
I mean, that was the instruction last time, as Rolf has summarized, Chairman has summarized.
Yeah, there were two different pages, and one had community character up here, and then one was a community, it was the one in the prairie, where's the picture of the prairie, where'd that go? Oh, there it is, yeah, so it's on page,
community
Oh.
chapter overview.
well, it's just underneath the Wasco, what's it, it's at page 29, 30,
29,
31,
29,
32 and 33, 32 and 33
Yeah.
would be the community essence.
So it wasn't one of the themes that's
Okay.
part
Right.
of the subsequent chapter.
So it's kind of the introductory and saying that the essence of it. It did both say character and it got confused.
And that's, you wanted one of them
Yeah,
changed.
and so we
Okay.
changed it, so we changed this one to essence. And then we said, okay, now we're gonna go to community character, which is gonna be one of the, chapters, I guess, or one of the, not chapters, subchapters, of that.
Well, and page 33's got another map as well as that issue.
Page 33, yeah. No map on that, just a picture.
Electronic 33.
Electronic, 33, okay, let me go to electronic 33.
Plus,
Yeah.
nobody's complimented Brown on his photos.
I complimented Mr. Brown on the overall package of it, which did, and I did actually mention the nice Farmall tractor photo there, with, next to the acronyms, so.
I did send out a request for
For
photos. Yeah, you were CC'd on that.
Right.
You can, yeah, please, please.
But resolution is a,
We asked Peggy Sue for her photos. She claimed she had 'em.
but I see everything just kind of flows pretty well with all the goals and then all the strategies, so, okay, to the map, so now I'm on electronically 37, so I've got the two maps side by side, I'm in, B1, so it'd be page 50, 60, like 60. So there's two maps there, and we had
You
the
said
open
page
space
60?
map,
Page
and then
60?
we had the green, yeah, page 60 with the two maps, the open space and the green infrastructure.
Okay.
That's what was requested to be separated last time, because it was just too, I think it was just too cumbersome, and it was just too hard to tell what was what. So I believe
Yeah.
that's been now separated.
All right, so with that open space map, we're not seeing the Harley Woods complex. It has the easement properties, which happens to be Harley Pond and my family's property. So that's along Beath Road there, just above. So it should be, let's see, the woods there, so it's parallel to that long green hash section, that property is open space that belongs fee simple to the township. And then on the other side is also fee simple going down to 38. So that's been left off of that.
All right, I think HR Green, this is what we had when we wound up with the zoning map. I think I requested they just send me the same one.
And the legend also says, for the dots or green orb, they say Conservation Foundation, are they referring just to the piece that's currently held by them, Goldenstein's?
Where's that at on the electronic?
It is page 37,
37 one.
37 of 103, electronic. So there's two maps there.
And so,
Well, obviously, the maps are gonna change, I believe it still
I
is
guess
currently.
the hard
Conservation
part
Foundation.
is telling Campton's open space is the little dots, yeah, it's missing from there, that's right, okay. So the Harley Woods complex, and technically, unless if it's just not showing on this well, but technically Headwaters is not on there, is it?
Well, so I'm gonna, Corn Farm is just gray, so I'm just, what are we trying to show all open space within the village boundary, or are we trying to show within our 1.5 jurisdiction? And it's a matter of whose open space it is, if it's
Well-
township or, so what are we trying to?
This is forest preserve, Jerry, isn't this, most of this forest preserve?
A lot of it is.
So it's not really
Yeah.
Campton, it's just open space.
Was,
It's not a Campton open space map.
Well, if you look at the bottom of the legend down there, you'll see that the very bottom one is Campton Township Open Space, 1,600 acres or 15, whatever it is.
Yeah, 1662.
And it's supposed to be gray with tiny little green dots. And that's what I'm not seeing in places, so I don't know if the green dots didn't reproduce well or what.
You know what, that's an HR Green
Yeah.
tweak. Jim, they'll just do it, let's just annotate that we need to talk to HR Green.
Yeah, we can get a different,
Different map for that.
Or maybe.
Because I don't even know if it shows up there at all, I don't, I don't.
So first of all, I guess the question is, do we want to show, are we showing everything just in our boundary area, or are we showing everything just within the village? So are we showing, hey, there's Campton Township open space, there's, private, like Conservation Fund, there's county, so is it just kind of like we did in the zoning thing, we kind of showed every bit of open space, and just called it open space? I think that's the goal, right? Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Well, certainly anything that was in the village, the
Yeah.
bare minimum, yeah.
Then I would
But that's
say-
just it, there should be, I think, more because of
Yes,
that,
I
because of
would
what's
agree.
in the village, yeah.
I would think you would
Yeah.
almost want to have almost anything delineated in the 1.5 jurisdiction area.
If you're gonna put it in the key,
Yeah.
if you're gonna list it in the key, you should be, you should be able to make it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you
right.
otherwise don't list it,
Yeah.
All right, so let's try to include all the open space and then have it,
okay.
See if they,
yeah, yeah,
I'm sure it looked good on their plotter.
yeah.
Well,
And then obviously, if you have any questions, I would shoot it by Jerry first, because he has a very good understanding of where those places, or Neil as well.
Yeah.
A very good understanding of where those parcels are and where they're located, or if anything's missing. Okay?
well, like I said, I can't even Corn Farm is not
Yeah,
identified.
it's just green, it's gray. It's just
Yeah, that's
Great,
great,
so-
yeah, yeah, so it's almost like the program didn't pick up that there was supposed to be that.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Campton
it's got,
Township
it's kind of like
open
it's like
space,
really
uh,
heavy on the
legend.
county. It's like all the county stuff and then a couple little extra.
Yeah, the county stuff's easy to do.
Yeah, but then you've got like the conservation and a couple of different hash mark, down south, so it's, yeah.
I'll see if they can do what they call a color ramp, they can do a new color ramp
And I think we're gonna
Alter that.
need to include other parcels that were not included, so,
yeah, and then,
Yeah, because you.
Corn
let's see.
Farm, Goldstein,
well,
or,
it's possible they're there, you just can't tell.
Because
Yeah,
No,
Sure.
they're not identified. I'm zooming in on it, and there's nothing there.
No, but I mean, the one for missing, we're not
Yeah.
sure.
Corn Farm, I
yeah,
mean,
it's, Corn Farm's all
No,
gray.
I mean on Beef Road.
Well, like the headwaters should, that's just
Yeah,
white.
some of our Headwaters is definitely in it.
Yeah, so, all right,
okay.
so we got that as an action item.
Correct.
Okay, that's good, clean that up. Alrighty, so, I'm just kind of progressing down. Let's see, page 68, 69, I don't have anything, just looking at this map here now, just to see. This is the water resource, okay, that's the water resource map, okay. And then oh, okay, that was good to have the, facility planning areas, so. And then on to food and farming. And, can't remember, nothing's triggering my mind now, and then, after that would be E, commercial mixed-use centers.
Food and farming on
Yeah.
page 74.
Okay.
The photos of Brightside, isn't it? And wasn't that, was
Photos-
that Brightside or is that something else?
On 74,
Yeah.
that is the only photo that I didn't take. I was able to
Is
pull
that-
that off the previous, so
well-
I don't know where it came from. So. It was in the previous comprehensive plan.
Right. I'm trying to think if that's Brightside, if that's which Weiss tore down and put up the Morton building up here.
Oh.
I can't tell if
Which
that's
one?
it. Page 74 as far as
Yeah,
the,
that's the old one.
is that Brightside that
Is that
was torn
gone?
down?
It's gone.
Yeah.
But that's all right. It's,
Yeah?
it's history.
Yeah?
I got a lot of barn photos. There's something else that,
Not a
or
problem.
maybe someone will contribute one.
Well, I mean, one of Lankitis's would be sort of appropriate because you're talking about, sort of a present-day futuristic kind
The
of.
one
That's a good
photo I
suggestion.
used from the old comp plan.
Like you say, food and farming, and he's got milk cow, milk and cows.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a good suggestion.
Lee Strong's original, he got a big barn.
Yeah. I have a lot of barn photos, so I could, something.
Or
somebody
his
will-
produce stand, probably more significant in terms of local food production.
And he's got a produce stand right in the front
Strong.
of that
Right,
big barn.
so if that were,
All righty, I'm on mixed-use centers.
We have the same.
And then, I didn't really have anything, for that, or into homes and neighborhoods.
I was
Yeah.
wondering with the mixed-use center thing, is there any way to lessen the town center, and I don't mean, just the phrase itself, is I don't understand why a field that is north of here is being called a town center. I can understand that, okay, that was at the time just, okay, a concept name kind of thing Tesca bought into, whatever. But it just, it's sort of insulting to the rest of the community when you're calling an open field town center, and then the other aspect would be, could you you could say that this was a 2010-11 study and plan, et cetera. This kind of thing is what we would want, this is an example of how you could do a mixed-use center. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's specifically for Wasco, it could be for like, if we're concerned about Burlington and 47, but something like that, so it just.
Actually, I think you did write something
yeah,
like that.
I did.
I think it's in there, because I remember
Yeah,
reading.
the
it.
paragraph right above
is
it, that's,
Yeah.
Is it?
I think
I
it's,
thought we
Yeah.
agreed
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
yeah, let's see,
yeah, it says it right there.
yeah, I think it was, and it said, well, it says
Potential-
village center versus town center.
Yeah.
So it kind of defines it. One example of this concept was prepared by Tesco Association for a potential town center north of Route 64, the Fox sees Tesco's plan below. So that is a taste of it. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're looking for, Jerry, if you wanted something more or different. I think it's nice that it clarified and it described the difference between the two.
You know, it just the use of that phrase seems so, a misnomer, I guess, you know? But anyhow.
Yeah. Well, does anybody have a suggestion? Just leave it? Yeah. I think- All right. All right, so moving on, let's see, homes and neighborhoods. Just a couple of photos to add in there. So you're on 52 of 103 electronically, or 9091 of the printed version. So you're just adding a couple of, you're just talking about, and then there's on the transportation, riding cane, Great Western Trail. And let's see, list of trails.
I need a transportation photo, maybe Joe sitting in his Mustang. Could get that for-
Yeah.
With the top down, he doesn't have a convertible.
Then,
A wagon and tractor.
Yeah. Yeah. The roundabout, yeah, just the
Yeah.
The
roundabout.
roundabout would be a good picture.
Yeah, we can do that,
yeah,
yeah.
That doesn't say Meyer, no?
Doesn't have to be a vehicle now, so.
You got a drone? You can,
yeah,
Yeah, a drone shot with 4
Yeah.
cars going around with it.
yeah. Get the police cars driving and circling around. Okay, H, community services, and, that takes us, that's short, and then basically, the really kind of the meat of it is chapter 4 land use, so, so just a couple of,
Right.
minor things from before.
I've got one or two.
Yeah.
Just cruising back, let's see
Yeah,
here.
go ahead.
On, let's see, it'd be page 53 that has the historic sites on it. Echo Valley Farm did get added this past month by the county, so it'd be number 19, or at least it'd be the 19th historic site.
Oh, it's just
county
added?
historic
Okay,
site. Yeah,
good,
yeah.
good.
So Echo Valley Farm on Beef.
Yeah,
Well, that means I have to do some restoration work now if I live long
Okay,
enough.
good.
I wonder what restoration's like. And then,
Success equals work.
yeah, and then there was, what was it here? Oh, there was acreage for Garfield Farm Museum. It looked like it may have just been a redundancy. It said 209, I think they had Coron also down as 209. Garfield's 365.
Hey, I'm sorry, what page is that?
That's what I'm looking for. It's wherever the list of open space acreage of several sites, but I had folded it out here where I could spot it easily again. And I circled the page number, so go backwards here. Is that it? Can't be that far back, can it?
in the meantime, while you're looking for that, Jerry, just a minor, I got a minor thing. Page 110 printout, page 62 of electronic. It talks about residential res unit estimate, which I think is a residential, some measurement. And I'm not really familiar with what a res it's capitalized, res unit estimate. So I think it's more of a planning tool that they use to, maybe it gets a little bit more into the weeds about.
What page are you
So on page 110 printed, in the red, on the second column, about halfway down, it's the capital letters RES, UNIT, unit, res unit estimate. If you look at the single-family residential paragraph, it's at the last.
Oh, yeah.
So when I first read it, I'm like, what's a res unit? Is that, I'm just imagining it's a term that planners would use to so I just wasn't really sure what that was. And I didn't have the time to look to see if it was in the acronyms, or.
I don't think it
That's
is.
something the assessor uses.
Yeah, this is from a CMAP document.
Okay.
I'll check that.
Okay, yeah, I
The
just
quote's
was,
from a CMAP.
either it needs to be defined.
I think it's residential unit, but I'll check.
Yeah, and I'm assuming it, because they talked about with a residential count of zero, so it's some code
Yeah.
or something.
I just
like that. It just didn't make much sense
Yeah.
to me when I read it.
All right,
Okay.
page
I'm sorry.
74, page
Sure.
74, it's on the same page at the Brightside Farm barns.
74 of.
74.
Printed?
And it's, yes, it's this first full paragraph, Campton Hill's tendency towards ag preservation is evidenced by the presence of Garfield, which would be 365 acres.
It's 44.
Is acreage and corn, 209, Mungerson 68. That Mungerson, they must be referring to the township's open space. I don't think that has, and technically, that's 65, 68 acres on the south side of 38, Neil, that'd be open space, but it's not necessarily dedicated as agricultural open space. It's currently being used that way. At Garfield, we have the 365, which includes the northern Munderson property of 95 acres. That's,
On the north
yeah,
side of
yeah,
38.
yeah.
So
So I think
Munderson's
that's
correct,
68.
but-
You could, yeah, you could say Garfield and the Edward Garfield / Mungerson Brothers Farm. I've got a long word name for it. That would comprise a total of 365. So,
Can you send, what we should call it exactly?
sure,
in the acreage?
sure.
Yeah, or I can take it off the recording, but if you got, you can send it to me, what you
Or
think.
just
it should be
maybe
called.
combine it, to say
Yeah, what
Garfield
your
and the.
yeah, what your preference
And
is.
the North Mungerson
Yeah.
of 365 acres or
Yeah.
something like that.
And then technically, like I said, because see unless it's an easement, no, a conservation easement, the township cannot hold ag land technically.
Corn is not ag land.
Right,
For
Yeah.
instance, the 209 would not be ag.
Right,
It's open space, but it's not.
yeah.
preserve prairie.
And then Strums
Strong's is, but I don't
is,
think it's
and
in the
that's under
village.
the county. Oh, it isn't that part? Oh, okay,
The farm protection piece, I'm not sure it's that.
okay. It might be right at the edge of it.
It's right on the edge.
Yeah. It's one of the dilemmas of.
So the sentence reads, Campton Hill's tendency towards agricultural preservation is evidenced by the presence of. So it's really saying a tendency towards agricultural preservation. It's not saying these are examples of specific, things. So it's saying the tendency toward agriculture is evidenced by the presence of, it doesn't say the active farming of. So I think the wording is good to
I mean,
impart the.
you could, like with the piece that we owned of the Edward Garfield Mungerson Brothers Farmstead, that 95 acres is also under easement with the USDA Farmland Protection Program, which is a whole different level than the county farmland preservation. So there's, I'm just trying
We
to
don't have
find
water
ways that
fountains
you
here.
goose it up, not just our actual acreage, but how you sort of expand the concept, I guess. But, yeah, I'll talk to you guys about it.
Yeah, because it does mention the farmland preservation zoning classification. Perhaps maybe you add another sentence or something talking about some of the different things, like you said, things including, you know, the conservation, you know, I believe we also talk about that somewhere else though, in the, but anyway,
Well,
You
it's
got
another way to preserve,
as a strategy, I think it was a strategy.
Yeah.
another way to preserve our open space,
Yeah, and so,
farmland protection.
Okay.
yeah. Okay,
Send it straight to Jim, though, Jerry, if you got a better,
verbiage,
I'll create something and then
better
you can pull
mousetrap.
from
okay,
that.
all right. All right. All right, so I'm back to page 110, or 62 of, on the electronic, back in chapter 4, land use, unless, I don't want to shut you off, Jerry, if you got, are you still in this?
No, that's
Okay,
fine.
okay.
It's good.
Let's see,
Yeah, I've
we
got
did-
a
yeah, go ahead.
issue
Yeah.
under institutional,
What page, sir?
on page 111 of
111.
the document,
Okay,
62 of the PDF. The institutional description, I mean, that should really include hospitals, rehab centers, you know, assisted living. I mean, there's a lot of other institutional facilities, I think, that should be described in that block. It seems very limited to, or it seems unfairly limited to, you know, basically government facilities,
schools.
the way it's described.
Yeah, churches, cemeteries, but mostly, it is municipal buildings and other government-owned land and facilities is the majority of it. Did we have something in the zoning? I'm scratching my head, Jim, Brown, on the zoning ordinance, when we did that, didn't we talk about having, was there something in the, did we have industrial in there? or-
It's institutional.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
institutional?
It's not a own zoning category, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't
'cause we
believe it
had,
was.
You
No.
know, the schools could be in residential, for example.
Yeah.
Special uses quite frequently, but I don't know if we had a definition. I'm trying to think, this isn't red, I don't know if this came from the current comp plan. The other red items, that was from a CMAP document, their land use descriptions, I just used those.
Yeah.
This is not red, so I don't know if this was in the current plan. Normally, if I changed something, I turned it to red. So, but I can go back and revisit that.
Do you want us just to add, Jim?
Well,
Yeah, I can
Yes,
just
I'd
add-
like to be more inclusive
Right.
of, you know, those institutions
Would-
that
Why
could
don't you
be,
just-
should be included.
Wouldn't that also fall under commercial though, in effect?
It does, in a
So
way,
if you
it
could
does. It
put
says
But-
there-
but it's-
hospital or medical,
But it's
the
not
actual
listed-
term is designed for resident, it's for healthcare, education, government, or other public services.
I think it's in there under that.
Well, everything is listed as a government in there, is
Yeah,
what he's saying.
it could add the word healthcare.
Healthcare is good,
So-
yeah.
Healthcare would be a good one to add.
Yeah.
Healthcare, you said education,
Yes, it
but
says
this
here.
does talk
that
about schools.
Structures whose primary function is to serve public purpose or cater a specific population for non-residential needs. They are designed for healthcare, education, government, or other public services.
What are you reading from?
AI. But it gives you I mean, you can
Well,
use this.
That's just a suggestion, it just gives you a good
Right,
overview, so, but I do like the idea of putting healthcare in
Yeah.
there, that would make
Especially
it.
if somebody wants
Yeah.
to bring you know.
Anything else you think should be included besides
Pardon
that? Anything else you think that should be included?
I think that's, well,
I mean, 'cause it's already got schools, municipal buildings, post office, churches,
See,
cemeteries.
those,
yeah, I think health, if we just include healthcare,
Yeah.
that covers a broad range of.
Okay,
well, if they're,
Yeah.
if they're government-owned institutions, that's sort of what that institutional implies. All those things are public entities in effect.
I mean, post office is more
Churches.
government, church is not government.
Oh,
No.
yeah, churches,
Yeah.
right.
Cemeteries?
But there's nowhere else-
Can or can't be.
But things like healthcare aren't listed under any of the other uses.
No, I think just adding healthcare would be a
Yeah.
good thing to add in.
Yeah.
Okay. Good point. What else we got? All right, the, current land use map and the future land use map, I imagine, I know you talked about how they both will pretty much look the same. because we're not changing lots of land use, but
Right.
really the not unincorporated, the undeveloped, or the north and west portions which are basically farmland, would
Right.
be the only area of potential future land use changes, but that's, so there's, are you planning to have any changes there, or is this, we're just still waiting for, are we waiting on another map? Because it says insert
Yeah,
map.
I don't know, I
It's
mean,
still-
I have paper copies of the current land use map.
Okay.
If you wanna,
Well, I've got the electronic one,
okay.
current one. I'm just wondering, are there differences for the future? Are there any differences?
Well, that's my question, before
Yeah.
I really give any more direction to HR
Agreed,
Green.
okay.
You know, I discussed with him and, kind of held off at this point until we had a more thorough discussion here. You know, the current land use map would be our starting point, and then
Right.
what on here is either out of date, since this was done in 2012, I think that'd be very minimal. And then, those areas, you know, south of, say, Route 38, and then northwest, what in there would potentially be something that you would want to change?
Before we go there.
Anyone want a paper copy of that?
I'm good.
Sure,
I'll
I'll
have
take.
one.
Before we go back, we just talked about before we talked about the other map having open space. This map looks like it has all the open space you would ever want. This might be the solution,
It could be.
you know, that,
Yeah.
using one of the layers, that open space layer in that future land use.
Yeah,
map.
that's a good,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, that might be your solution to,
Sure.
to that other problem, because I'm looking there and I'm seeing pretty much everything, on the board, so.
Jerry, check it out.
Well,
Well, not only that, but if you
it's,
look-
it's, in the,
It's better?
in terms of, current land use that is outside the village, if you look just east of Garfield Farm along Campton Hills Road, you can see the DeBear Anderson property, which is a conservation easement that the township does hold. On this map, well, I can't tell the text, the thing's so small, it does have some lines through it, it's
What color
yellow.
is it?
It's yellow, but it has some diagonal lines through it, and I can't tell.
Yellow with
What that
diagonal
is.
lines.
That's agriculture.
Agriculture.
Yeah,
Agriculture.
and so it's preserved that way by the easement that the township holds on it.
For
Uh,
agricultural use.
Right,
So
right,
it's color coded, I think.
okay.
Yeah, not only that, but if you look at all the green open space ones, it actually says AOSP.
Yeah.
It's
Anyway,
actually labeled.
that might be something that Green might, I'm just trying to solve the other problem from earlier about, you know, and that
Yeah.
might be, you can offer them to say, hey, can you pull something from there? It's already, looks like it's already there.
Yeah, they
That
they
layer,
can.
that
They could-
layer is
yeah, they
already
might just
there.
turn-
So maybe they could just make it simple and quick for them to do that, so. But before now, we get to, so I guess the big question really is then, if this is our current land use map, what does a future land list map look like? Are there certain places, nodes, areas that we would want to designate on a future land use map as something other than what is on there now? So it looks like all the light yellow to the south, west, and northwest, and a little bit to the north, is agricultural. Not that I'm targeting that, but that's the largest area, and potential would be if there's something that we wanted or didn't want, or did we want to highlight anything? Sometimes you look at nodes, like, you know, 47 and 47 in Burlington, or 47 in McDonald Road, you know, perhaps like Silver Glen Road in 47, or, I'm just trying to talk to get some juices flowing. I'm not advocating anything, but is there?
So what is the light blue there that's out west?
Oh, that kind of like,
Burlington
yeah,
Road?
that kind of like
I don't
light,
know what that, I can't,
that, yeah, I can blow it up here, let me see if I can get it.
this, or whatever color this is.
That kind of bluish green. What is it,
Along
what,
the
I
what
think-
letters does it have in it?
I think it's a farming district.
Does it say FP?
Nope, just says F, it's a
Farming
farming, it's a
district.
farming district,
Okay.
that's what it is.
So farming on that side, so then what's the yellow then?
The
Depends
yellow
on
is
which yellow, if you're looking at the yellow
agriculture.
with the hash, and it's got the 2,000 in it, that's agricultural.
Okay, but I'm just trying to figure out what's the difference.
Difference between agriculture
Between
and
the two of them.
farming.
Well, we have to go back to the page on the one note that we had it spelled out. Was there different protection as agriculture versus just farming? Is it different?
Well, this is a land use, so just talking about land use, so I'm not sure if there's a difference between agriculture and farming.
Generally, I've not done any distinction. Jim?
Right, I see what they did now. They have, they put the zoning district, they kind of mixed up the zoning and the land use. This should not be necessarily the zoning
There
category.
shouldn't have
Yeah.
been farming, it should
Yeah,
have just all been
just been,
ag.
yeah.
Yeah,
Should just all be yellow.
yeah, right,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's all.
No,
I'm
no, it's
trying
good,
to-
yeah, no.
Good catch,
Yeah.
well, there's another map discussion.
Because it's a land use, not a zoning, yeah. So that-
Right.
Okay,
I think they had a layer of zoning on there and they didn't turn it off.
yeah.
Well, now I'm saying, I think what happened was, they took the zoning map,
Yeah.
which was just within our corporate boundaries, and it looks like that remained the zoning designations, and then the land use was in the planning area,
Yeah,
which, then that should be changed, so. Although our zoning pretty much matches with our land use now. Because we changed all of the farm, there was actually residential subdivisions to residential.
Right.
You know, so. But that should be, the zoning category should be eliminated, and then, it should be land use on this one.
which is agriculture, right?
Yeah, so it should be agriculture.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, quite clearly, they just put the zoning
Right.
layer in.
You can fix that pretty easily.
Yeah.
Technically, Goldenstein's is, some of it's already in open space, and then,
Uh-huh,
so that area actually is gonna turn green.
okay.
Yeah, we might update that at another time, but,
Yeah, I'm just saying.
yeah, but that's,
Well, we might as well get it now, because we need all that
It's
happen.
coming, it's just waiting for the grant. You know, so, I mean,
Okay.
money's coming, but
yeah,
it just isn't final.
right.
Drew wants to be heard.
Yeah.
Just a couple of things, one little thing, in the bottom, far bottom right, you see that cluster of forest preserve that's sort of vertical, there's a little red dot in there.
Like on the lower right corner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that red dot, that's actually my property, and it's no longer commercial, it's shown as commercial, so it's a state now.
Okay.
It's a state residential?
Not red.
Yeah, it used to be special use,
Yeah, it was
commercial, and that expired and he retired.
And then I was just, you know, the entire area of the potential, Fox development will be coming up over the next several months, so right now it's showing as a state, I believe.
As a future planning,
Well, like right now, I think it's a 4-acre estate, you know, so if you're gonna change the map or.
Well,
We're talking about a future land use.
yeah, no, I understand
But
that.
oh, this one, current, the red is current, you say. is-
Red.
So under the current land use map, the red
should go.
in lower right is go away. Okay, now,
Currently, the red's.
okay, so the next question, I think, would be the future land use, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, I'm sorry, I had a comment, I wanted to go back to that whole, that, you know, how the farming and agricultural,
uh-huh,
and, sorry, I keep on doing this to you guys, but there is actually a bit of a difference, and then maybe we have to talk to whoever is gonna talk to our map, but, and maybe this is the designation, because farming, it's actually the actual growing of, practical growing of growing crops and raising livestock, where agricultural designation falls under a different type of tax benefit. It says agricultural land may be subject to a lower property tax than what a farming would. Well, I don't
see
know,
that
I mean, I
nu-
think
see
that's something
that
that we
nuance. However, we're just looking at the map as land use.
Land use only.
So it's a land use map, so I appreciate
But
the
I'm saying,
difference.
but who would look at this map? And, you know what I mean?
I would say a developer or somebody who wanted to
Right.
to look and say, hey, what does the village envision happening with this land out to the X direction?
Yeah, I-
They'd say, I think this is what it is currently being used as, I think I might like to use this as X, you know? So it's more land use.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. I'm just looking
No.
at it from a tax standpoint.
Sure.
Is there a tax designation that might be different?
There shouldn't be, because all farmland's taxed the same, isn't it, Neil?
But it,
As
far as I know.
I mean, right, and that's where
but
you
it doesn't
have-
really matter.
Because like the.
No, I get it doesn't matter because this is for, future.
Yeah, it's for land use, so so we're looking at a land use map, whether it's, I think that the idea should all be the same land use. So if it's used for farming, agriculture, it should have one designation and one color, because that's the way the land is used, so. It's like even if a house or residential neighborhood was zoned farming, if it's used for housing,
Right, yeah.
it's not gonna be colored as farming, it's gonna be,
It's gonna change, right, I
the
understand
land
that.
use is housing, so.
The only time would be, smaller parcels possibly could be a different tax. 5-acre farm parcel
Right.
versus 40-acre.
Yeah, no, the whole point of it was to try to figure out why it was even placed in a different designation and color,
The problem I thought about.
Well, wait a minute,
basically
maybe it's because it's not necessarily being used as agriculture, but has the farm zoning. Okay, is there,
I don't think that.
anything like that? Because, when you look at these little parcels that are marked F, I assume that's what that is.
Yeah. F is,
That those are like, oh, okay, this is still zoned as farming, even though it's a smaller parcel than these great big wide open yellow spaces.
the F, so if you'll also notice, the F designation is all within the village boundary limits. It all follows within the boundary limits. The
Oh.
yellow is all outside of the boundary limits of the village.
Okay.
So I think that is the zoning designation that's been given to the
So-
village of Hampton Hills, and everything else was filled in as agriculture. That's the
So
way I see
we're gonna
it.
be looking to just make it all one.
Yes. So
Got it.
what is the use of, that's all we care about, what's the
Okay.
property being
Yeah,
used
yeah.
as?
Got it.
So, and
So say that again, you say that's.
if you look at the light greenish F area, see that?
So everything that's yellow is not in the village.
Correct. It's within the plan, but it's not within the village limits.
So it doesn't have a zoning of the village.
Does not have a zoning, so it's not in the village limits.
That's why the F
That's
isn't
why
on
the
it.
color.
Yeah.
That's why the F isn't on it.
And you notice it's got like a black line outlining all the village limits, and it goes all around those F or light green,
Right.
bluish
Right.
areas.
Right.
So
That's why I did that.
that's, I think, why, or how it either mistakenly or unintentionally ended up having a different color. But really, if it's land use, if it's
Should be the same
agricultural,
color.
should be all the same color.
So
Okay.
then, just so I understand.
Well, the legend
Yeah,
here is
hang-
all zoned.
hang- let's go to Neil. yeah.
So Goldenstein's then, they're not in the village, so that's why it's yellow,
Right.
and until they are in, it doesn't matter what color it is, they're.
The land
even if it
use is-
turns
the land
green,
use is-
it's
yeah.
Still not in the village.
Yeah.
And it's Goldenstein,
Yeah.
that's right here.
Right next to Corn Farm.
It's got something else.
I mean, it's
on
still agriculture.
it. Yeah, it is, but it's,
I think, the only thing about that blue part, I think, is just because it happened to be within the village, that's how it got that color.
Yeah.
But really, the
Because it's a
important
zone.
thing is it's all about land use.
No, that's a.
One is zoning and there's two things here. One is zoning, is one in land use. So you have two maps here.
But
And
we're
it-
gonna switch it all to land use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that, it just caused confusion, I think it just caused confusion.
Jim Brown knows to talk to HR Green,
Yeah.
to take the zoning out and just use
you
land.
guys
Yeah.
create a lot of confusion.
Yeah, that way. it's-
And then, because you've got FP in there for the, looks like the Strom one,
Right.
the Strom's in there with FP, which is,
Farmland protection.
but that shouldn't be, it shouldn't be a separate category either. It should be all agricultural.
That's right.
Okay, so the question then, now that'll be the kind of the base, here's what we have for our current, land use. Would there be anything else to add to it if you had a future? So what is the vision? Now, somebody brought up the comment of possibly, south of
South of 38.
38, did you have any vision of saying, hey, we would like a state residential, something like that down there? Or whatever it is.
We also have what would be a newer category for a future land use map, conservation design.
I think that'd
Thank
be
you.
a better
Yeah.
definition to use, conservation design. Because we went through defining that a couple meetings ago, and
Yeah.
I think that would fit that future area much better than residential estate.
Yeah, I,
Gives you
Yeah,
more
because-
flexibility.
It leaves more options.
Well,
Yes.
especially since the emphasis is trying to preserve everything north of Mill Creek,
Exactly.
so.
Conservation design.
rather than putting a carpet of 1.5 acre lots or something like that.
Jim Brown, how do you define conservation design?
It's in,
Please, so it fits, so that everybody understands and we get buy-in, because it's important, I think.
So normally, there's large lot developments where you might have, let's say you have 100 acres, and the developer wants to get what they refer to as a yield, that's how many units they're gonna produce that are saleable, and they wanna get to a yield of 50, all right? So they propose a plan that divides that 100 acres up. Ignore the fact that we have roads, and I know there's stormwater detention, just ignore that for this example. So they divide that up, 50 units, 100 acres, so each house is sitting on 2 acres, correct? Did I do my math right?
yep, yep.
So conservation design would take that, and it would start with, okay, the yield is gonna be 50. And you don't necessarily have to start with the yield, I'm just, for the sake of the explanation, I'm showing you how this would work. So you wanna say, well, we want to preserve open space that's not on someone's big lot. We wanna either make it community open space, or we want to, preserve other large tracts of woodland or water resources, where we're gonna have some type of protective easement, so it's not necessarily open to the public, it's still gonna be protected. So now we take the 50 units, and we say we're gonna reduce the size of each of those lots from 2 acres down to a half acre, okay? So now I'm using, 25 acres. Now I have 75 acres of open space.
Or
The
some.
lots are small.
Or some
Right.
variation of
So
that.
you're designing something where there are large tracts of some type of open space. Ownership can be different, can be an easement or whatever. You're preserving open space or creating open space, if you're restoring a prairie or whatever. And you are you are allowing the density that you would normally seek, say, a 1 acre lot to shrink, and in compensation for that, you are getting that open space. So that's
And-
normally what
And
conservation
do the
design is.
example of what we might be seeing at this, in the next month, 950 acres, the Ryan property, and they have a yield of 900, but we want to emphasize 450 in open space, so then you could get to how dense the lots could be, because you prioritize the open space. So you take the 950 and put 450 in open space, and then he's only got 400 acres to get 900 units, and then you back into that kind of density. And it could be shifted around, like the train station could be a higher density than other areas that are more open. But that's the conservation
Concept, yeah.
design, gives you that flexibility to get what you truly want.
Sort of like a PUD.
It is.
Well, yeah,
It is.
right,
It
and
is
then,
a
and then
using
the
conservation
other,
design.
the design factor that comes into this, so you're starting with this, and the idea is now you're going to conserve the best topographical or water features or vegetative features in that, my example, 100 acres. So now you're taking a ridge line, you're taking a grove of oak trees, and that's what's gonna be preserved. So you're preserving that, all right? And you're eliminating, and hopefully, a benefit of this is you cut out, say, mass grading, for example. You
And
know,
leveling it-
and-
leveling it
Right,
all.
and just kind of redoing the natural state. And, I always tell people, you drive through a new subdivision, or a subdivision that was new, it's 30 years old, and you take a look at the street trees. How big are they? they're tiny. Why? Because they did mass grading, they compacted the soil, and the trees don't grow in it. So you get away from things like that, the mass, I mean, there's gonna be some grading, but you try and avoid that. And then you preserve the better features, you preserve more acreage, better features, whatever those resources are, streams or whatever, and that's conservation design. And you still end up with the same number of units as if you were demanding
2 acre lots.
2 acre lots, yeah.
All right.
That
Drew,
would
did you want to say something?
Yeah, just a comment, because, we've been working on this possible thing that might come up shortly, but, conservation design, I remember at one of the previous meetings, there was some debate.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the definition of
Yeah.
that? It's been around forever. In the case of the LaFox project, again, it's 962 acres, and they're immediately chopping off 450 and making it available for open space. We hope we can pull that off, meeting over the next few weeks. But, the maps that Mark already has, I think PUD would be the best thing, and to show those areas in, and then open space for the 450 would be ready to go.
I'll show it.
As far as conservation design, I know at one time it was like, in the PUD in LaFax, we're talking about near the train station in downtown, the neoclassical, picket fence, small garage. But they're not gonna have like ditches with rain gardens in them.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's a neighborhood, but by allowing that density, we're buying that open space.
Right.
So that's kind of what I've roughly drawn it out. The north of the creek and the waterway is gonna be all open space north of it,
So basically, everything running along the waterway.
and north,
And north.
and,
All the way to
and
38.
east.
Okay, which makes all the sense in the world.
You wouldn't see if you're driving down Route 38, you would not see a single house of those 900 homes. They'd all be in a linear development between Grundy and Harley, south of the town, south of the creek.
Got it.
So the open space ties into the existing open space, and everything
Yeah.
on north or east of this waterway stays
That's
open,
gonna be a whole other
and you
discussion.
concentrate.
It will be, but we just need to maybe
Yeah.
just put like a general conservation design or whatever here, residential.
So
But if you define the conservation design, it allows your PUD to be really fitting to what you're,
I think conservation design tells a little bit more of what the village, the vision of the village is, rather than just PUD, because PUD could
do anything.
do anything.
Right.
So I think if you say conservation design is what we kind of, as a village, would like to see, I think
Right.
that would be a better or more appropriate designation in my
Because
opinion.
I'd like that in there, so I can tell the developer if he gets cold feet about doing something, that I've got
But,
something to
yeah,
direct him to.
What is the definition of conservation
Yeah.
design? I mean, we toured a place 20 years ago, and it was pretty cool, but it was, the rain garden, ditches, no curb and gutter. Some of these things have kind of fallen out of favor. So, I guess the main point that I'm trying to make is, we're buying that open space by proposing density, but, just for a comparison, as far as dwelling units per acre, the Charles Farm development was, the Charles Farm development that we defeated was 2.08 dwelling units per acre, and the current draft, or whatever you want to call it, concept, is 0.93. So we're about like 45% of what they were proposing. So it's a huge victory, but yeah, you're not going to have acre and quarter lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Not to get that much open space.
so, right now, on page 110 of the draft, this is chapter 4, and this is in red, so it was added. There was kind of conservation design, I believe, mentioned in the current draft. So this reads, conservation neighborhood is so here's conservation neighborhood,
Primarily.
conservation design I'm using interchangeably. Conservation neighborhood is a primarily residential subdivision where homes are clustered on relatively small lots, thus allowing for common open space. The common open space often protects environmentally sensitive areas from encroachment. A conservation neighborhood, approximately 33 to 50% of its potentially buildable land area to under, I gotta change that sentence. So in contrast, conventional subdivisions devote all or nearly all buildable land area to individual lots and streets. So that's what I was saying, if you had, instead of these 2-acre lots, you're getting smaller lots, you're clustering it, and you're creating more of the open space. What you're referring to is something that has stormwater BMPs, the rain gardens, the swales. That's not necessarily in our definition of conservation
And
design.
just to build on what you were saying, Mill Creek, which was considered a pretty state-of-the-art subdivision, almost
Yeah.
completed, that is about 45% open space.
Yeah,
This, we haven't calculated, but we think we're gonna be over 60% open space.
yeah, I mean, that,
It's
yeah,
like off the chart.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So an option
But
would
then, I
be,
mean, I think that is even more fitting to this name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PUD is not, in Campton Hills, it's a dirty word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I just
that's
don't
why I
think.
want this word.
Yeah, we don't want to use
I think
PUD
we
for the
can
land
get
use.
everything
No.
No, we
because
don't.
it's too wide open.
No.
Because you could do anything.
I think I'm thinking of something that was, that you mentioned, maybe a
Yeah.
little more.
Chris?
I was just gonna say, maybe you go with the conservation neighborhood, because it defines residential, it also defines
Right,
conservation. If you say
Yeah.
conservation design, it leaves a little open-ended.
Yeah.
To where you could have an industrial park that is developed with conservation in mind. As
True,
opposed to
yeah.
if you just want residential, I think you would go with the conservation
conservation neighborhood, that's what's in here.
And it ties back to
I
that.
tend to use them interchangeably, just because I think everything I've done in my career has been residential, although conceivably you could have mixed use and
But
industrial and
to
whatever.
Chris's point, I think it just refines it a little bit more to conservation neighborhood.
Right.
I think it says what we, I think is a,
Yeah.
and I won't speak for everybody, but I think the collective vision is we would rather have conservation neighborhoods than, warehouses.
I think we should say
and
that.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I
And
think,
if you want warehouses out on 47, you could say a different term out there, but south of 38, I think it's neighborhood.
Yeah.
But that would include some small commercial in that
It could.
neighborhood.
Sure, that could mixed use,
Good.
conservation neighborhood, I'm
I
all
wanna
for it.
make sure
You know,
it's
what it is,
Around the train station
Yeah.
area?
I don't know that neighborhood necessarily eliminates that. It doesn't.
I think it says primarily, right?
Right,
It says primarily
Yeah.
residential.
Right.
so I
Primarily
think-
residential.
Because we want to allow if there's, you know,
Yes.
coffee shop
Yeah, right, yeah,
or something.
Right.
Luau West,
yeah, no, south, yeah.
south,
I'm not looking, but I just mean a
No.
small service-oriented shop or something.
right, yeah, yeah, so service for
Cleaners
others.
or
Yeah,
something.
right.
that-
So
Yeah.
I kind of vote for like the conservation neighborhood.
Yeah.
Since it's defined in the document, and then that kind of tells what it is for the south of 38, and then that would be a starting,
Right.
so, and
you know,
then.
what I was
Jim, go
thinking
ahead.
here, as we're talking about terms, the conservation neighborhood, I think defines, a very broad concept for, development, or a variety of development types. And PUD really is the execution
Right.
tool that enables that conservation neighborhood, so.
Right, exactly.
They're not really,
Yeah.
it's not really a dirty word, it's just that it's the execution of,
Yeah.
Right,
that
that's how we
neighborhood.
exit,
So
it's
We
an
all agree
ordinance.
that we
it's an
don't want
ordinance.
PUD.
we don't call it a
I mean, you could
PUD,
actually
because
take
that's
Conservation neighborhood and say conservation design neighborhood.
conservation
Yeah,
neighborhood.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Really put it all in one thing.
So I think we kind of agreed that south of 38 is good. Do we want to extend that anywhere to the west at all? Would you like to do something, in our planning zone, in our area? One of the reasons why I think about this, we see Lily Lake, and if they wanted to do something, we would have the ability we being the village,
Yeah.
would have the ability to say, hey, that's not, it's within our planning area, we have a different vision, we see this, and we'd be able to, have input into that.
Do we want to show it all the way to Virgil?
So, yeah, I don't know, that's where I'm just kind of going, so what, if we wanted to do, more of that, maybe not right up to, I don't know, I'm just trying to get your input and thought processes up here.
Well, you could also throw in, like conservation/agricultural design,
Well,
neighborhood, so
or conservation design
lots.
could incorporate that.
But I think it, but it might there are a couple of developments were attempted that actually, instead of open space, they were doing farmland amongst
The houses, yeah,
development, But, just sort of like using that as, to imply there's the potential here to keep more agriculture than
Right,
what you
I
all
see
are
what you're
thinking.
saying.
You know, something like that.
Mhm.
That we feel that that's still an important use up in there, especially in the aquifer recharge areas. I mean, I think you'd prefer to see that in ag than to see it covered over with houses or
Oh, absolutely.
businesses.
Absolutely. And that's the northwest
So-
corner all around, basically Burlington 47 intersection that there. That's pretty much, I believe, in that general area is where the major aquifer recharge area for the township is.
I think it's farther northwest.
Well, it might not be.
Recharge
may not be-
areas.
Well, I know there's a recharge area right around,
Glenwood.
yeah, about 47 area, but I know, maybe not for the aquifers for our village, because those will go
Oh,
to farther east.
yeah.
But I know
Yeah.
for the aquifers for us, but still, it's a recharge area.
Yeah, it's all, any pervious area is
Yeah.
going to be,
So, so could we kind of agree that below 38, we'll say that? Did you have a
Oh, go
point?
ahead, no.
Below
Please.
38 would be the conservation neighborhood? Okay. And then now,
I should have printed it out, but in the 2012 plan, on the future land use map, which was confusing, which was why we didn't want to use it, why I left it out.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to take a step back, but on that map, on our current future land use map, the area south of Route 38 is designated by and large as conservation design,
yeah.
or conservation neighborhood, I'm sorry, keep using it. Yeah, neighborhood. Hit me when I say
So we're good on
Yeah.
the current, but I wanna make sure we carry that over in the future comp plan too. Jim's been
Yeah.
very studious on this point because of what
water
we know may
Yeah.
be occurring soon.
yeah, so the only question I would ask is, okay, what about to the west and to the northwest?
That may be where Jerry wants to add ag, because,
Or
but I think you could have industrial out on 47.
do we want to leave it as ag, just like it's saying,
This is the.
yep.
Are you
yeah,
talking
yeah.
are you talking outside of the village?
So it's right at
Can I
47.
ask
I mean, it's
can I
right
ask you a
at
question?
47,
Being
going
that
near that area.
You guys know this area better than I do, and you've got some farming in you, but if it's an aquifer recharge area, why in the hell would I want agriculture there? That's the biggest pollutants out there, all the fertilizers and everything in the ground that they toss. Do I want that?
Well, residential is even more polluting.
They're both are. Okay, well, I'm making the case for,
No, I understand what
Zero
you're
open
saying.
spaces
No, I know what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I'm
agree
making a
with that
bigger
stuff.
case for your open spaces right now than anybody else. Farms pollute.
But aquifer recharge designated areas, there's certain things can absolutely not be built on it. If it's converted from farm, it's got restrictions.
The idea is that if people's wells will go, you start paving that over, and people's wells go dry. And so that's the real
But
big
it's
thing.
not necessarily straight down.
Correct, correct.
No,
It could-
the way
it could go, it could go.
In fact, one of the more recent
It was,
concerns
right.
with environmental issues is climate drying, where you're drying out the soil, and to depths that we are not familiar with, which is an interesting perspective. So if you're not getting rain, or if you're having just warmer days, you're gonna tend to be drying out the soil more, and then you see that moisture level in the soil dropping and making it less productive. So it's, man, there's so many aspects
That's
to all
why,
this.
we've got a lot of drummer, so thank goodness. That holds the water.
Yeah.
So
They could-
would there be, I mean, if we really want, I think, two things, would you want any type of mixed use or anything around a node, say, 47 Brooklyn, I just keep bringing it up because that's a prominent one up there. Or do we want to make anything that says we want to keep this agriculture, rather than saying conservation neighborhood? Would you like this, would there be something to say, hey, because basically from 47, along 47 is the aquifer recharge area. Okay, that's basically along 47. And that's where it is, up to the northwest where 47 and Burlington meet. That area is a big blob, and then it kind of thins out a little bit, and then towards the Little Lake in that area, it's a big, large aquifer recharge.
So is that an area that, along 47, that would be deemed more of a commercial type area?
I think if you look at the history of this area, if you look at Randall Road and
Right,
31 and
exactly.
25, that's what kind of tends
Commercial
to be.
retail.
It doesn't have to be.
Well, I know, but more likely if it was, it's commercial.
And you look at
retail, that's what's gonna-
KDOT, they're gonna basically make that a four-lane road, you know, 47's gonna be a
IDOT.
four-lane. Or IDOT, sorry, KDOT, instead of IDOT. That's gonna be a four-lane road, so there is potential for that to be some type of a commercial.
And looking more like what 47 and 20 already is, does it happen? 47 and,
Like with Stark's Corner, and, yeah, that Stark's Corner there, area, so.
well, do you want that, or do you want to prevent that? That's the question.
Sanitary district there, see, that's why there's some fence.
Yes.
We don't have anything at our corner, there's no sanitary. You'd have to go to Forward to get anything.
No, you have to get into
And
Elgin.
Elgin would just say,
What,
well,
yeah,
they
how
give it
far
to
away,
us.
Yeah,
the
right.
problem is how far away is Elgin along 47? How far north of us?
No,
They
they're
two
pretty far
47
north.
yet?
Not that
Oh, yeah.
far.
Well,
I don't
it's
think they're that
coming
far.
fast.
Yeah.
They're all the way to 47,
Yeah.
just south of 20, and
Yeah.
they're
Not
working
the-
around Plato, between Plato and Plank, I think they're looking to expand.
They're
all the
Plato
way.
and Plank, they're trying to get south of Plank now toward Plato, but they're not there.
Is that that'll require their water district, right?
And you know what?
They're gonna do
I
it?
don't want to get too deep into it, but Elgin, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, put water mains out to extend,
Yeah,
to be ready for development.
out
They
to
haven't-
Pingree,
Yes. but
they're
they
fighting,
haven't- They haven't charged them, so therefore 12 years in the ground, they're trashed. They can't, they have to dig them up and almost
Because Pingree has its own, because Pingree's been growing like crazy.
So I think Elgin's big boom to grow out that direction is frozen because they've lost so much money in pipes they put in that never, the development never, and the land didn't get annexed. So
no,
their-
I think
Their growth,
they're moving on it now, yeah. The signs are up.
it's closer to Route 20 in Plank.
We're at 20, well, north of 20 and north,
Yeah,
yeah.
but that section that would be more threatening to us, they've wasted the money.
Yes, yeah.
So, our impact on any of the planning area that's beyond our borders is largely that, what, we basically would force a supermajority for any change to occur if it was something we were opposed to? Is that essentially what happened? So if Lily Lake came in, or whatever, or Elgin?
No, only in the county,
All right. so it
unincorporated
doesn't
areas
matter.
only.
Okay.
Yes, right.
Okay, yeah, that I understand, but that's where I just didn't know, like, well, what impact, if, whatever plans we put out there beyond our village borders, how strong is that? I mean, how do you go up against another municipality that maybe those planning areas overlap if you're doing the mile?
They have to give you notice and consideration. They don't have to listen to it, but
So
it's a
little bit
speed
of
bump, it's a speed bump along the way.
Okay.
But the question I think the chairman asked is, do you want to stay in the neighborhood, or do you want to allow more intense development, but possibly on 47 or any of the corners, at McDonald
Yeah.
or, or leave it all neighborhood, like you have in the south? So that, do you want to,
It's not on the agenda.
do you want to parse?
I would prefer that, just because
Conservation
you want
neighborhood.
to be more conservation oriented, at the bare minimum, than to be looking.
How often are we supposed to do this?
What, have this discussion?
10 years.
Conlon?
or
10 years?
10 to 20?
10 to 20.
10 to 20 years.
Chances are 47 and Burlington won't change in that timeframe.
In 10 years, probably not.
We'll probably be talking about it
Yeah.
next time.
Okay.
You know, for instance.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure that that's any, because
All
we
those
don't
people
know
will be
what-
talking about it who don't have gray hair now.
IDOT is 20 years away from changing it to 4 lanes,
I can
probably
s-
15 to 20.
Right, it would be Elgin pushing
Yeah.
technically, but we still have some land
So we just leave it like it is?
I'm wondering if we shouldn't
Okay.
just leave it, because if we show it, that'll only drive more development, is the trouble. You know, Elgin will say, well, you guys want it.
Yeah,
you know.
right. Okay. I mean, like we said, we could do something like Jerry said with the conservation neighborhood. You know, the same thing we do below south of 38. You could just put that all like around 47 if you wanted to. You know, just say, hey, we don't want Randall Road. We don't want Randall Road. We want conservation neighborhood.
Yeah, I think
Which,
that's what.
and I don't know if I really want, I don't know if I really want a Randall Road out there.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think I want it on 47.
Actually, I think you don't want
No.
47 to turn into
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think it will.
Well, but, I mean, we, if you wanted to, we could maybe designate maybe some of that land around 47 as conservation neighborhood. I mean, that's just another
Well,
option.
I think that parcel, well, there's that whole section between 47, Burlington, you know, then north and south of Silver Glen, up to Pointer Park, that whole section there, I think should be conservation neighborhood as well.
From Pointer Park up, south of Silver Glen down to Pointer
Yeah,
Park?
north and south of Silver Glen, south of Burlington,
Okay,
you know, up to Lily Lake,
Do any of our,
east of 47.
okay.
do any
Isn't
of our,
that requiring sewer and water?
That's not a question.
Yeah.
If,
It's a good question, but,
Well,
not for
land use.
land use,
yeah. And we're trying to say, what would we like to see there?
yes.
Industrial, commercial, R&D, you know, what do we like? It's, you know, we kind of like. to keep
If
it-
someone wants it bad enough, they
keep it-
can
Keep it residential,
come
right?
up with a solution.
but I mean, don't we wanna just keep it ag?
We may want to keep it ag, but the property
I mean,
owners are the ones who have the ultimate say.
Well, that's already an issue, because that 1,000 acres is owned by an investment group. So if we designate it, they're gonna, then they will go that route. That's the only trouble.
I mean, I don't
Because they
think,
haven't come to us at this point to say, you know, we wanna develop this.
well, they can go to the county right now.
They could,
Yeah.
but the county is probably still gonna look it up.
is there anything with, the overlay maps were made for like, for the village, and I don't know if it extended beyond the village boundaries or not, but like, you know, for farming districts and, I forget the terms, but there's also the conservation and these overlay maps that sort of imply, you know, that, well, this is an important water resource here and so on. Do those maps reflect any of this outside the village boundaries in itself?
Not sure I know what maps you're referring to.
You're talking about the green infrastructure.
Yeah, green infrastructure.
I believe it does go,
Yeah.
I believe it does go into the 1.5.
Because
mile.
Yes.
I never
Yeah.
fully understood all
Yeah.
of that. It was a very interesting concepts and all, but I just never quite understood. I mean, it's like the closest I got was, okay, there was, all right, this is sort of generally a farming area, so yes, you should allow some businesses that are supportive of farming to be in it, because that's sort of more farm oriented than it is
Best Buy.
business, commercial
Yeah, or- yeah.
kind of thing.
Well,
like
But I
that.
don't know.
the question I have is, do we wanna keep some farmland within our border?
Yep.
I mean, a large farmland within, like 1,000 acres. Do we want that, or?
I would say yes.
Not, because, that's it. I mean, that area is all we'll have left.
Well, we would have to annex it. There is no 1,000-acre plots within the village boundaries.
No, but we're showing it as an ag area, so if we change
Yeah.
that, it wouldn't be ag anymore.
Well, a potential future land use, yes, I see what you're
But
saying.
it wouldn't be, we're not saying we want ag, is what I'm saying.
Yes,
Once the land is gone, it's gone
Yeah.
forever, so I'm just saying, that's our last section of a large parcel of land for farming.
and,
Because in the future, excuse me,
No, no.
in the future, you know, it's all these, you know, it takes more land to make a profit. And so, 40-acre parcel, you can't make any, you know, farmer can't make any money on that. But 1,000 acres, he can still farm it,
Absolutely, that's very,
right?
that's true.
So,
And
but
the-
that's the only piece left that we really will have control over. Everything anything else, Elburn's coming, Lily Lake, we don't know really what they're gonna end up doing. Elgin, for sure, they don't
Right.
care, so.
Right.
That's the only reason I bring it up as far as whether we wanna change the designation or not. I just,
Okay.
my feeling is leave it farm.
Okay.
That's what
I think that's one option.
I'm more in favor of the conservation neighborhood, because that tends to say that we've already considered that it's going to be developed and we're setting a direction.
But that's my point.
But
I
that-
disagree, because I don't wanna see it developed.
It's going to be developed.
No, it
I don't
doesn't
care
have
what
to
you
be.
think, it's gonna be developed.
Not necessarily, no.
Not necessarily.
It may be 50
That's why we're
years.
here. That's why we're
Yeah.
here, because we're saying we don't wanna see it.
I mean, you think about like the Lankitas Farm is not exactly
I've been
on the
fighting
edge.
this
you
my
know.
whole
Yeah.
life.
It's-
This is
it's-
what we've been doing my whole life, this discussion is same discussion year after year
Yeah.
after year.
Yeah, I mean, if
And
we,
we
if we
wanna
could say
be- we
ag
wanna be in charge
preservation
of that.
somehow.
That's who we are.
I don't know, my opinion is that it's inevitable and we have to be able to manage it.
If it doesn't stay farm, what are we gonna allow it to be?
I think the conservation neighborhood, it's a,
Puts a brake on some of it.
yes, it gives you there's some direction that we've already considered that it's going to happen, and we want it to happen in a responsible manner.
Here's another aspect to it, though.
Is there a
Anytime you make
Hang on.
plans like this, you need to find a way to achieve those plans. And so if you say an agricultural preservation area, well, that's fine. But that means you're gonna have to find some mechanism to make that possible, which means raising money, whatever, to try to keep it, to protect it. You
We're
know, so you
proof.
almost have to do that.
Hampton Township is proof. We said we didn't want it to go this way. We didn't want houses everywhere, and we passed 3 referendums now.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's no reason we couldn't
Yeah,
do
the
that
next-
again for farmland.
Yeah.
We could probably come up with the same program for farmland.
Yeah.
So never say never, is my
Yeah.
point. Because once it's gone forever.
I mean, that's the thing that always irritated me about the county, is they started doing this broad brush of painting things 10, 20 years before it ever happened. But it already began to shape that influence, of, okay, this is gonna get developed, you know, and that's what was always so irritating about the county and all.
Well, their map didn't have any teeth either.
Yeah,
It was just an idea, it didn't have any teeth.
All right, Mike, this is a good discussion. When I think about this is the 2012 comprehensive plan, and the one we've written now, think about what has been written in there about farmland preservation. I mean, is that really in the comprehensive plan, and that is our vision? And I would say yes, that's a big part of our current comprehensive, plan, in the textual form of what we're doing. If that's where we are, that's a vision of this village and this community, then we should probably have the tools to keep it that way, if that's the goal. Now, are there gonna be pressures? Absolutely, there's gonna be pressures on it. But I'm kinda tending to lean towards Neil in the sense of, look, if we really wanna preserve, and we're writing our comprehensive plan to say we support agriculture, we support ag business, and we support all this stuff, then maybe we should actually have our land use map that follows along that same path, and that says, we would like to keep it agriculture, that would be our.
because we
that would
do,
be our-
I mean, besides from, you know, potentially township being able to do something depending on how the open space goes with state legislation, but, you also have the county program, so right there's a pool of money right there that's good for 7,000 an acre, I think currently, and, when they have the funds, that's, you know, in itself an issue, but it's usually matched then by the feds, so that starts to get you in, you know, in maybe reach of a reasonable price. You might have to still raise more, and maybe you don't buy it outright, maybe you're just buying the easements on it.
But the key point is Neil's asking it to be ag, Jim
Right.
said neighborhood. What says Jerry? Ag or neighborhood?
No, I've always been concerned about putting a bullseye on properties, and it is the kind of thing that, I mean, we pretty much know that what's ever south of La Fox that's gonna go one way or the other, and there's not much chance. Whatever we can do to preserve as much of the natural, the open space is very important. But there's still opportunities up here north that, keeping it as a farm, that we feel it should be kept as farmland.
So you're ag.
So it can't be just the approach that, oh, this is just vacant land, so we'll call it farmland, or that farmland's just vacant land. We gotta eliminate that idea.
But it's a land use.
So
change.
how do we imply that we feel that this is farmland, should be used as farmland? Not just that, oh, because it's not used for anything else, it's vacant land, it has better potential, it's being developed. I mean, that's always thing we always heard is highest and best use argument for any piece of ground.
But the whole point with LaFox is there's 3 towns
Oh, I
around
know
that
that. No,
have
I know that.
sewer and water.
Right, right.
That's why.
Yeah, I
Okay,
know that.
so I think we've come to a consensus.
Okay.
Or I think we come to consensus. I know unless there's other disagreement, we'll probably leave ag as the predominant land use, and then conservation neighborhood to the south of 38. All right, for the future land use map.
Okay.
All right, any other input or suggestions along 47, anything else? Because Jim is looking for guidance so he can generate a map. If not,
All right.
What about those parcels along McDonald that are ag now, or outside the village, actually?
And that little donut that's surrounded by other municipalities?
Yeah.
Yeah.
what are we talking about now? McDonald Road. I know.
McDonald Road,
Like west of, like Corn Farm, or west of Corn Farm? I know it's not on McDonald Road, but it's close to it.
yeah, just west of the rehab center there. The big blue blob.
Yeah, which is
Just
south
to the
of
west,
McDonald.
northwest of there.
cluster of,
Yeah.
farmland there.
Yeah,
So you mean Dittman and McDonald?
yeah.
Yeah.
Dittman, right.
Okay.
Dittman, yes.
Yeah, there's the old,
Elgin had their eyes on it, I don't know, yeah, it would be nice to save it.
Is it Goodman McDonald?
Because we
That's the-
completely,
No, Dittman and McDonald.
Hartman's lived there.
we completely surround it,
Christmas
right?
Tree Farm
No, we don't
Used to
completely
be.
surround it, because Elgin's,
on the southwest, southeast
No,
corner.
Hartman's was the dairy barn
Oh, yeah.
in the northwest
The-
corner.
Right on the southeast corner was
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
Christmas Tree Farm, or was, maybe it is anymore. All right, so did you have a proposal of something there?
I'm saying that probably would be ideal for conservation neighborhood designation.
Yeah, it's ag to the north and
Or
to the
ag.
west, northwest, northeast,
Oh, I
and
see.
south, or west. So west of Dittman, it's ag, and north of McDonald and east of Dittman, it's ag, and south of it, it's kind of unused ag. I think an old Christmas tree farm was one, and then might be a little bit of ag. So, I don't know if it's compelling enough to change to say, hey, that should be all houses. I'd just leave it as ag.
Okay.
That's kind of where seeing that the other 3 quadrants are all agriculture and actively agriculture. That's kind of where I'm at. All right. Land use map,
Okay, so the only areas we're designating
different,
different is south of 38.
south of 38, and then unless anybody had something on 47, if you wanted to just say no, keep it all ag, or if you wanted to, I know the balance there is like, don't put a target on it, don't say mixed use residential, or, but I mean, and part of it too, I believe, maybe, like you say, 10 years from now, or 15 years from now, you revisit it, it might not be really an issue, so
I
I
don't
just,
know what, we don't really know what they're gonna do with 47, so it doesn't really, you know, we kinda knew, they may not keep that curve the way it is, you know, they may make changes. It may not, and I'm just saying, it may not be worth it this way. They may,
Some of this
who knows
area as
what they're
well.
gonna come
Yeah.
up with.
Here, or no?
Yeah, I think all around 47.
any other,
I mean, this is all within
any
us,
other
right?
Yeah,
suggestions
this
on
is all
that
our plan
future
here,
land
here,
use map?
or Village, yeah. The green is us.
I guess I'd like to see it.
Yeah, okay, we'd like to see, see the map,
What is it?
See the map,
Now,
yeah.
47?
yeah.
But we have quite a bit of control already with that area, so I think we, you know, I'm sure we'll be talking about it in the future. 47 in Berlin.
I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but I'm just assuming that we're gonna complete this and probably recommend. But I guess my question is, hopefully it would be, like with Jim, he'd like to see the map, would be able to see the map before it's put up. Obviously, too, it's just gonna be, it's subject to change anyway, it's not the final, but it would be nice to see that before we did go to a public hearing, if we do agree on that.
We can bring me another piece, yeah.
All right, pressing on, there's only a couple more pages left, that was the big thing, so, just the goals and the strategies for land
I've had
use.
mine. Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, thanks, appreciate it, looks good though.
No, I've had one.
Thanks.
I think on page 119, which is page 66 in the digital world, strategy 3 in red, this is very similar to one of the goals listed above. I had a note written down, which I left at home, but I think looking at those, I don't think it was it was slightly similar, but not that much. Strategy 1 was green infrastructure. Strategy 2, I think was like land use. Strategy 3, just talk about prioritizing sequence growth and logical connections. I think it was more about the existing infrastructure and not burdening the village with additional infrastructure.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I looked at that, and so I don't think, I like it the way it is. It's a good question. It is somewhat similar, but I think it's really prioritizing not burdening the village with making new roads and bridges and, or water treatment plants or something like that.
We
So,
actually, they were discouraged in
Yeah.
an earlier part of the
Yeah.
document not to have a water public.
so you could just remove that comment on 119. All right, and that's pretty much it. Because then we just get down to the last 30-plus pages of data from CMAP, which basically updates a lot of the data that was in the 2012 map. So,
Yeah, I had
yeah,
one glaring error, I think.
okay,
If you go to, I don't know, whatever it is, 76, page 76 of the PDF.
76 of the PDF would be.
It's the middle of all the CMAP data. Community
Yeah, so it's like
snapshot.
1, 2, 3,
What,
4,
what's the
5,
topic?
six,
Tax
Under
base,
housing characteristics,
It's this- Oh, I think it's a page 7, I think it's page 7.
eight,
Is
there's
that the number of
page eight.
condos or
Page
whatever?
8, Page 8,
Yeah, the
the appendix.
housing types,
Yeah.
20 or more units, 10. Where did they get that? 3 or 4 units, 11?
Right.
Yeah. It could those might be the, the business mixed-use areas, but the 20 or more units, saying that there's 10, those are apartment complexes.
Right.
Yeah,
They're not where?
I don't think we have any.
No.
No. I think that should be corrected.
Or could we put a disclaimer at the beginning of this?
Yeah.
How about a disclaimer that?
Or
this-
if you can find them, they're affordable.
Yeah, we got affordable housing, there's 20,
Just don't know where it is.
Could we, let's put a disclaimer up there that all this data here is from CMAP and may not
Reflect
reflect the actual accurate counts.
ground truth.
Yeah.
Is that Elburn, you think?
Or is that the?
Yeah, it could be
home,
Elburn.
Could be Elburn, Campton Township, Elburn.
Yeah, could be Camden
The drug
Township.
rehab?
For the drug rehab, well, that'd be one unit, yeah,
That's what I was thinking, it could be
Yeah.
that place, I mean,
but maybe,
Those are multi,
yeah,
housing.
yeah, I guess it's possible. Maybe just put a disclaimer.
Yeah.
At the
Data is
beginning. That's-
reflective of CMAP's.
Not necessarily, your results may vary if you do
Right.
a look on foot. Chris, did you have something?
I was just gonna say on the bottom of page 124 of of the new plan, there's the note, need to discuss and add priorities for annexation
Page
and boundary
16.
agreements.
Oh, yeah, good catch.
To say no, need to discuss and add priorities for annexation and boundary agreements?
Yeah,
Okay,
there's one of
Yeah.
Mr. Brown's notes there.
so we need to add the priorities for annexation and boundary agreements, so.
Or at least discuss it and decide not to add it. I mean, well, either way, yeah.
Right, no, thank you for that clarification. Is it, so this is a comp plan, so is that, I guess you could have some general outlines, some general guidelines.
Yeah, all we
but-
say now is that it should be done in a logical sequence, you know, so you don't have this kind of leapfrog development or whatever. I guess that's what they mean by that, but, so, very soon we'll probably see something for south of Route 38. Is there anything else, you know, if we were to be annexing territory, you know, do we want to prioritize anything else? Up by Elgin, up by, you know, going west, do you just want to leave it alone, or? That's part of it.
We're committed to agriculture.
Prioritize
Right.
blocking Elgin
Right.
in the northwest quadrant.
But, yeah, not necessarily to annex to develop, but annex
Yeah.
to preserve as well, but, you know, that was just the annexation.
We don't annex, it's the owners requesting annexation.
True, but we can approach owners
Yeah.
and see,
I
I
think
mean, that's been done
what
before
Chris
too.
is saying, I've asked him to focus on that, because I'd like to know if you want us to focus on.
You want direction.
Continue to do defensive annexations to preclude our neighbor named Elgin, you don't have to spell it out. In the northwest from creating land uses and pressures for development that we want to discourage.
I think you could use something along the lines of saying, we could use annexations in a strategic way to preserve our open space and
Yeah,
our
I like that.
priorities.
I like
And our
that.
priorities of agriculture.
Yes, I think,
That did happen on